I got something kind of cool that I haven't showed you guys yet. I've had this C30 truck for a little bit and haven't really decided what I want to do with it. So obviously it is a tow truck, or it was converted into a tow truck quite a long time ago. Looks like the boom and the sling assembly are somewhat homemade or maybe modified at some point. Was converted to use an electric winch. There's cables running back there. And this thing was definitely used for a wrecking company, which is kind of cool. So it is a 1-ton, it's a dually, and it's got the Muncie 4-speed. This thing is pretty rusted up, but it's really neat. I got a good enough price on it where I thought it would be pretty cool to have some fun with. Whether I fix it up or not, my initial plan was to LS swap it, and it's got a 350 in it right now. The engine does turn over. There's no carburetor. What I want to see is if I can make this thing turn over with a starter. Who knows, maybe get it running. Maybe throw a carburetor on there and see if this old 350 will run. I don't know why they parked it. It could have been because the engine was bad. So as you can see, the interior is not in the best shape, and I don't mean like the panels, I mean like the metal is just garbage, man. It's really bad. The rockers are toast. Underneath this bench seat, there's a huge hole all down here. I mean, you can just see the transmission and all that kind of stuff. So the floors and stuff are toast, but it's still pretty cool. So the first thing I'm going to do is try to pull the starter off and take it apart. I think maybe it's just rusted up. I tried to hit power directly to it with some cables, and it just didn't even do anything. So I'm going to get the starter yanked off, and I think we're going to pull it apart and see if we can make it work. Both the tires on this side were completely flat. There's the other one. I went ahead and took it off. I don't know that I want to spend money on tires yet, so we'll see. We'll kind of see where this project goes. Starter is out in here on the garage floor. We're gonna see if we can get it to move. Okay, so there's two different things that need power on this starter here. This guy right here is supposed to supply power to both the solenoid and the motor. So first we're gonna try the motor, see if it turns. Nice. Okay. I don't know why I had such a problem in the truck. I could not get this thing to do anything. What the heck? Okay, well, the starter works, I guess. Starter is back in the truck. We've got some really goofy stuff going on here. So there was no terminal for the negative cable. So negative cable's on there with the vice grip. Same thing with the positive cable. So this positive cable goes straight to the power side of the starter. Held on there with vice grip, of course. And then we've got a line going from here for our 12-volt ignition source. And I found a wire that already looked kind of goofy over here, and guess what? That is it. So I'm gonna see if this thing will turn over under its own power. The starter moved in the garage, so hopefully it has enough power to actually start or turn the truck over. Oh yeah. Okay, pretty cool. Next step, let's see if we've got any spark. So gonna check that out. Okay, just now off camera, I proved via the conductivity of a human body that this thing has spark. So we're gonna go ahead and see if it will fire. I know there's no carburetor on there, but if we spray some fluid in there, we should be able to get a little something to happen. So we've got now power to the coil tapped in right there. So the coil has power right this very second. The only thing we have to do is connect this to the solenoid on the starter, and this thing should turn over and have spark. So let me go ahead and spray a little bit of goodness in there. We may have some backfiring and stuff, but let's see what happens. Oh, check it out. This thing runs. Isn't that ridiculous? I have no idea when this thing ran last. We really shouldn't be running it without a carburetor on here, but let's see if we can make it happen again. Man, check it out. That's just ridiculous. Okay, well, the next step is I'm gonna go find us a carburetor and slap it on there, and then after that I'm gonna go ahead and wire this thing semi-properly, because this whole mess is kind of ridiculous. But anyway, let's get that going. Hopefully the next video will be with the carburetor on this thing, and we'll see if we can get it to run, and maybe do a compression check. Check out this old motor. I got some parts from the local Summit Racing and AutoZone. We're gonna see if we can do some more stuff on this truck today. The first thing I'm gonna do is see if the factory wiring works by putting a new ignition switch in. It sure would be nice to be able to turn the key instead of having to do all that crazy mess under the hood here. We're gonna put on a radiator cap. Not that I think the cooling system's any good, but battery terminals, and then electric fuel pump, and a carb adapter. That way we can stick that Edelbrock on there and make this thing actually work. So I was looking around for a carburetor, and my buddy Clint happened to have one. So man, saved my life there. Don't have to go spend some more money on this engine. One of the things I'm not trying to spend a whole bunch of money on this 350. I just think it'd be really cool if I could make it work. So realistically, this thing is all going to probably come out, and it's going to get an LS eventually. Okay, so inside there's a little cam, and everything looks like it's good. So I'm hoping we can just drop this ignition switch in there and be good to go. The way these work, we shouldn't have to have any tools. If this is the right one, it should just go in there and work. Yeah, there we go. Hey. Okay, next up we're going to go ahead and get proper battery terminals for the wiring, the battery. That way we're not having to use all those goofy vice grips and stuff. And then once I get all the electrical stuff worked out, if I can make it fire off the key and run, then we're going to do an oil change and clean up some of this nastiness here and see if the coolant system works. So that'll be kind of the order of how we're doing stuff. Battery terminals are on. We also added a body ground, and the only hot wire was just this one that goes to the starter, but that should branch off to everything. This is not where the battery goes. We need to get a proper storage for that here in a second, but the battery tray is gone. So the carburetor is not bolted down or piped in or anything. I just want to see if factory wiring is somewhat intact. Okay. Hey, check it out. That's a good sign. Oh, man, this is awesome. Okay, hopefully it is sending power to the distributor, because that means we can bolt the carburetor on, send it some fuel, and see if this thing will run. Just curious to see if anything else runs. No radio. I don't think the lights work either. Okay, all right, well, let's move on to the next thing. We're gonna get this carburetor put on. We're gonna have to use an adapter plate. It's gonna be a square bore to spread bore. I just got one of the Spectra kits. You can get these at AutoZone or O'Reilly's, pretty much any parts store like that. I got mine at Summit because I had to go there anyway. It's like 26 bucks, and it has all the gaskets and hardware and all that stuff. So I'm gonna get this thing put on, and then we'll work on getting fuel to the carb. Okay, we've got our manifold gasket on. We can get this guy lined up here. It's gonna take these little small studs with a Phillips on them. Phillips are a flathead. I'm gonna get in here, get this thing bolted down. So this thing is already pretty rusty. I'm gonna use anti-seize on everything, because like I said, this may very well be coming back apart in the near future. Okay, now our carburetor is on. I got an electric fuel pump that we're going to pipe into a gas can, and yep, should be that much closer to making it run. I've got the carburetor full of a little bit of gas, got a throttle return spring. Let's see if this thing will fire up. Hoping all the gas didn't just drain straight into the carb. Man, very cool. Okay, well, I've got to run down to the hardware store to get fuel line so we can pipe in the electric fuel pump. Just got one of those cheap ones here. So we're going to wire this guy up and see if we can make this thing run a little bit longer. That way we can just start diagnosing things and see if this thing may move. I have no idea if the brakes work, so I guess we need to check that too. So let me go to the hardware store, grab some hose, we'll keep going. Excuse the hawks screaming in the air. They just had babies and they're learning to fly. So we've got fuel system ready to go. We got our new fuel tank installed. We've got coolant in the engine that's mostly water from the water hose. And we got transmission fluid in the oil to help loosen some things up. I also put on a new oil filter. And what else? Oh yeah, power steering fluid because it was out. So first thing I'm going to do is we're going to put power to the fuel pump. I'm not going to permanently wire it in just yet. And then I'm going to go around and see if we can start the truck. Then at least we can warm it up, see what systems work and don't work. And yeah, just go from there. Okay, fuel pump is on. Man, this thing cranks right up. Now we'll get to let it run for a little bit, see if it's moving coolant, see what kind of leaks and stuff we have. The transmission fluid and the oil trick is really just to loosen everything up, get the oil flowing well, make sure there's no carbon deposits or sludge that's keeping the oil from flowing where it needs to go, at least through the pickup screen. That was another reason why I put a new oil filter on it. But man, as far as just sitting in here and idling, it sounds great. This carburetor came off a truck with a 305. It may have been a 350, I don't know, but it was actually a C10, the truck this style. This thing's running pretty good now. We've got everything kind of cleaned up, except for batteries not in a really permanent good spot. Of course, the fuel tank. So next thing I'll have to do is figure out the fuel tank situation, if I have one that's usable and just not absolutely filthy. That would be fantastic. So that's the thing that I'm going to focus on next, is getting the truck to be able to run without having a fuel can right there. But I've got some stuff in the coolant system. One of my favorite things to use on getting rid of rust is this stuff, Evapo Rust. Now in the 5-gallon bucket like I have there, that's for like dipping individual things, but they make one called Thermocure that's meant for engines. So I went ahead and just put that in there anyway. I put in, what was it, 8 cups, I think, something like that. Actually, probably a little bit less. But now you can see, you can just hop right in this thing and fire it up. Pretty cool. I got the carburetor set, idle mixture screws and everything. Went ahead and checked, tried to check the timing, but I couldn't see the timing mark. It's got a bunch of dirt dauber nest all over the crank. So yeah, there it is. I'm just gonna run this thing for a good while with the engine flush and the coolant system flush in it. It smokes pretty good, but I'm hoping that'll even out maybe once it runs for a while. I'm gonna go get these tires on too. But yeah, so we're looking good. Need to move this piece of junk out of the way so we can move this from the backyard to the front and start doing some work on it. Until next time. Tow truck update. I just spent like an hour pressure washing the underneath of this thing. It's still not really clean, but at least some of the grime is off. Make it a little bit more tolerable to work on. Could even see some of these nuts and bolts before. It was just insane. Got the carburetor on it that we saw in the other video. Definitely wasn't getting spark to some of the cylinders. I pulled the spark plugs out and they were garbage. Cap and rotor is also trashed. Actually, just really the cap. And so as soon as I get this Navigator to the junkyard tomorrow, we'll be able to drive this truck out of here, hopefully, because I got some new tires for it. So I picked this thing up because it had a Kenny Bell blower on it. I don't want the rest of the truck, so off to scrap it goes. Here are these new tires. Yeah, nice on the old crusty wheels. So I'm gonna get these things on here and hopefully get the Navigator out of here tomorrow. Maybe we can take the tow truck for a little drive. It's been a little bit since I've worked on the truck, but we got a new fuel tank in today. This truck has 2 tanks. On the passenger side here is a 20-gallon, and on the driver's side is a 16. We're just gonna replace this one here. I'm also gonna run new lines, so I really didn't want to mess with trying to clean this thing out. In my experience, once they're all rusted out, they're pretty much destroyed. New tank is only like 80 bucks. So yeah, here's a new tank. We've got a new pickup that we can install on there. I've just got to get this in the little chassis or whatever you want to call it, bolted up in there. Then we're going to do all new fuel lines to the front here so we can get rid of this gas can, and then I'm going to stick a new fuel pump on there. So after that, I'm going to have to pull the carburetor apart. I ran the truck like this straight off this fuel tank for a little while. I did not put a fuel filter in line, and the carburetor got clogged up. So that's kind of my fault. I got a little excited, kind of ahead of myself. Even though I was just using the small line from here to the pump, and then from the pump to the carb, the pump is also full of rust and disgusting. So yep, I'm gonna get to work swapping this tank over and doing all that. Alrighty, the fuel system is back in place. I also ended up replacing the radiator. The old one just had too many holes to repair, so I went down and just picked up a new one from AutoZone. So it's got a radiator in it, all new fuel system, and I'll kind of go over a few other things that I did but really didn't go over. This video actually took me probably 3 weeks to make. Just kind of was doing all this stuff in my spare time, not really working on it back to back. But so it's got brand new tires all the way around. I'm in the process of figuring out what I'm going to do about the tail lights and side markers. So I've got some lights like this that I may set in there. We've just got to kind of cut that little hole and make it look nice. On the inside, let's see, it's pretty much the same since the other videos that I made. New key switch, and that's pretty much it. I'm going to have to pull the shifter out and repair the shift linkage. Need to re-weld that. So let me show you under here. So throughout the video, I made a lot of changes in here and really didn't go over them as I did it. I was actually running the old mechanical fuel pump for the rest of the time that I was testing this truck. I pulled the electric fuel pump off that you saw in one part of the video. And what happened was that fuel pump was full of rust and it destroyed that carburetor. So that was the whole reason for the rebuild. I had to rebuild that carb because of what I did. I should have just replaced the fuel pump in the first place. So there's the new pump, proper filter in place, carb is rebuilt. I made a little wooden battery tray there and just kind of hooked everything up. So there's our new radiator. Brakes do work. So far nothing is leaking, and this thing smoked a whole lot when I first got it running, and after a couple hours of running, just kind of idling in place, all that went away. I think the rings sealed up with that transmission fluid treatment. So we got all that out. It has fresh oil, fresh filter, fresh coolant. I did have to replace the water pump. It was just pouring water out at a certain point. Once I put that rust remover inside there, I guess it removed all the buildup and this thing just started pouring out. The heater core also I found out was leaking. It was dumping the cab full of fluid. So for right now, this is blocked off. And we've got a block off there in the water pump until I can put a heater core in it. So let's see. Oh, I also did set the timing. I got the dirt dauber nests off of the marks down there and found out it was set at like 30 degrees or something. It was just way off the mark. So I set it down to 10 degrees at an idle speed of about 750 and then readjusted the carb. Then just went down to the store, got a couple of headlights. I don't know, what do you guys think about these half moon things? They call them like a lazy eye. So they were on there. I went ahead and put them back on after I put the tail lights on. Or sorry, the headlights on. Yeah, so let's see if this thing will start up. It's been sitting all night. I haven't cranked it up since yesterday. I did drive it around the block. The transmission shifts a little bit sticky, so I'm going to change the fluid out and see if that helps. All right, let's give this thing a go, see if it'll cold start. The choke is not hooked up. Don't know if we'll need it or not. We'll do the good old 2 pumps. Man, I wish this fuel gauge would work. That'd be nice. Right now, the oil pressure gauge and the volt gauge work. Hey! Let's see if it stays idling or if we need to hook the choke up. Come on, baby, don't die. Okay, oil pressure is good. Well, I don't know. It may die. We may need to hook the choke up or adjust the idle mixture screws just a hair. But there it is. This thing runs and it does drive. So this has been a fun little journey. I think what I'm going to do is keep fixing this thing up. I need to do exhaust on it. Here, take a look down here. Yeah, the mufflers are just like literally falling apart. You can see the guts of this one. But I need to do exhaust, fix all of the lights so the thing is road legal. And then I think I'm gonna start driving this thing and just kind of slowly fixing it up. maybe take the kids to school and stuff like that, and then figure out if I want to keep it. You know, does it have a purpose for me? I think it would be cool to maybe put in a hydraulic pickup down here at the bottom to pick up Ford Excursions. So me and Andy have an excursion business, so maybe it'll be useful for that. Otherwise, maybe we could get rid of the whole tow bed thing and put a flatbed on it. Who knows? If you have any questions about something you saw in it, put it in the comments, or definitely suggestions. I'd love to hear that. Alrighty, thanks for watching.